Okay. I am in the office of Nicholas
Ermolovich.
Ermolovich. People mispronounce Eisemann all the time, too. And where are you from, Nick? I see you went to Scranton University.
University of Scranton, I did. I'm originally from northeastern PA.
Northeastern where?
I grew up in a small town called Old Forge, which is midway between Wilkes-Barre and Scranton.
Okay. Well, that's kind of coal country.
It is coal country.
Right.
That it is.
And is mining in your heritage?
Absolutely. Yeah. My paternal grandfather emigrated from what is now Belarus in the early 1900s.
All right.
As a teenager, and
in the mines.
Wound up in the mines in northeastern PA. And my mother's side, maternal side, from Slovenia, emigrated from Slovenia. They also wound up in mining.
Yeah, well, that's where a lot of the Slavic peoples went, and Irish.
That's right.
A lot of the immigrant populations.
It's where the work was.
That's where the work was. It was pretty nasty work, but it was work. How did you come to Ephrata? What brought you here?
Work. Just like my grandfather found work.
There aren't enough lawyers in Ephrata.
And there's plenty in northeastern PA. But actually, I went to law school in Philadelphia.
What school?
Outside of Philadelphia, Villanova.
Oh, good school.
Yes, very good school. And I ended up clerking and then becoming an associate attorney at a law firm in Philadelphia. And I was enjoying that experience. However, sort of early on, I sort of started to think to myself, I don't know if I could see myself working here 10 or 20 years from now.
Well, there's Philadelphia lawyers have a reputation.
They do, and there's a certain pace and a certain lifestyle. But at the time, I was dating a girl who was a graduate of Philadelphia Textile, originally from Lancaster County. She graduated from Textile and moved back here to take a job at Skip's Cutting in Ephrata. And that's how I got to know Ephrata a little bit. And then about 6 months or so after she had relocated back to this area, my roommate in law school, who was still sort of finding his way with different employment opportunities, advised me of a job posting in Ephrata, PA. And isn't that where Kathy lived?
Well, not a job posting? You were working for somebody
I was working for, but he just casually mentioned, because he was looking for a different job. He said,
there's
a job.
Who were you working for when you came here?
Well, no, it was a firm in Philly, but I heard about the job posting. My law school roommate told me about the job posting. I said, let me send a resume out. Thinking about, I wasn't really looking for a job, though, because I had one. And I received an interview and ended up getting the position. The rest is history. But that position, I worked with Canelm Shirk.
Okay.
The third.
Yeah, you have solid.
Sure. It's great.
What, third generation?
Third generation.
Third generation.
That's correct. So,
by the way, when we're finished with this, remind me to tell you the Skip's Cutting Service story.
Oh, sure.
I got a great one.
All right, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the very core of your practice, what is an item of faith which is key to your practice as an attorney?
It may seem trite, it may seem even today quaint, but just belief in the rule of law, respect for the rule of law.
Okay.
And that carries over to things, and it's sort of old-fashioned, and you can still perhaps get away with it in central PA, but accomplishing things on a handshake. Accomplishing things knowing that both sides mutually respect that rule of law. That also carries into other things, like, respect for government, actually.
Yeah.
And those are the things where, in this type of exercise, I was thinking about that. Sometimes in my practice, I meet people who do not have respect for rule of law, do not have respect for government. I believe in government. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a force for good. So that's sort of a belief that I have.
That's interesting. I strongly suspect if you work for Shirk, that we're on the opposite side of the political steady.
You just gave me a sign. We are not on the, we're on the same side.
Oh, really? Because the Shirks were very strong.
That's true. And to Ken's chagrin, he continually hired people on the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Well, I happen to believe in government as well. Now, okay, how do you... Part of my life was working with young kids who were school dropouts, had been adjudicated oftentimes, and I was trying to get them ready to get a job in the construction business. They had absolutely... Well, the government to them was something nasty.
Right.
Something that suppressed them, and which was always bothersome, also owed them.
Right.
This was an enemy who owed them something.
Right.
How would you respond to someone who had that deep belief, because it was in them from the time they were little kids? How would you talk to someone like that who is on the exact opposite?
Well, it depends on the context, but it also depends on my relationship with that person.
Okay, let's say you have a client that comes in.
Sure.
That it actually comes in here trying to screw the government. I mean, they're trying to do something which, you know...
Well, if they came to me in a consultation with that sort of idea, we probably wouldn't end up with an attorney-client relationship. Because I'm sort of known, even we're having a very pleasant, genteel conversation, but I sometimes will give people advice in an unvarnished way.
Okay, you're being very frank.
I'm being very frank and candid. We'll have a frank exchange of ideas.
Okay, a frank exchange of ideas. Does that work? Or do you drive the person away?
Depends on the... Yes. Well, it depends on the context. But in an attorney-client setting in this room, it can drive a client away. However, you know, just like other areas, an attorney-client relationship only functions best when people have a mutual respect, understanding for what's expected of them, perhaps what the desired goals are, what their beliefs are, that sort of thing. So, you know, if a client doesn't like my advice, they don't have to take my advice, they don't have to hire me.
Scott Eby's down the street there.
Sure.
I mean, for example.
For example.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and there's attorneys within a 3-block radius everywhere. You throw a stone, you can't miss one. So that would be part of it. But, you know, I usually don't hold back. If it's in a more formal setting, you know, cocktail party or, you know, some professional gathering, and although you usually hear somebody talking about putting one over on the government, but I'm usually not that confrontational.
Okay.
So it depends on the context.
Where are we headed? I mean, we cannot continue.
Agreed.
With this attitude that we have.
Agreed.
Toward each other. Really,
right.
It boils down toward the concept of community.
Right.
Where are we headed?
I don't know. You know, I don't know. I'm a student of history. History was my major in college.
You had a master's
degree in it, and I studied law for 3 years, and I've been just studying history. Political science is an interest of mine now that I try to follow. You know, it seemed to me that this was eroding in the 90s.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And in the 80s, 90s, which is when I came of age, you know, my surroundings. But, you know, I think 9/11 seemed to galvanize and cause people to coalesce and gel around some sort of common cause, and people seemed, at least briefly, to be somewhat more respectful of one another.
Yeah.
But I see that deterioration again.
And if you think about, now I was in Africa actually, but 9/11 drew us together briefly, but a similar, even more destructive tragedy, which is the Katrina hurricane, pulled us apart.
Sure, yes, that's right.
I mean, you have a tragedy,
right.
Each is a tragedy.
Right.
In each case, people are killed. In each, we respond. Mm-hmm. One draws us together, the other pulls us apart.
You know, but I think there's such underlying fractures, underlying problems that these events that are drawing us together just are somewhat band-aids. They're temporary. Yeah. We've got deep, deep problems.
What? Give me one.
Well, there's a lack of respect for ideas, lack of civility for ideas. Mm-hmm. I'm right, you're wrong. There's no compromise. There's no in-between.
Right.
I'm right, you're wrong. There's no responsibility.
Yeah, when you get to the point where you run the government for the purpose of removing a person from office.
Sure.
I mean, that's dangerous.
Sure. I think that Washington and Harrisburg is a reflection of society.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I don't think they're driving it.
No.
People like to think that it's all them. The politicians, no. They reflect us.
Yeah, well, you walk down the street and talk to people, right?
Correct. But think about it, even another, I think there's a lack of, a deterioration in respect for religious views.
Oh, yeah.
I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, that's a touchy area, though, too, to address.
But you think we've been here before. I mean, you have the Great Awakening, the First Great Awakening, the Second Great Awakening. I mean, we've been here before. Are we going to get over this? Or is it so deep now? That is the fear so deep?
I don't know if we're going to get over it or not. One would think that perhaps technology could help out. We've been brought together in a sense in a certain virtual community with technology. Yeah. But then you find out we're fighting online too. Yeah, and it's so battling online.
It's so easy for someone to get online in a big lie.
Sure.
You're talking Aldous Huxley and George Orwell and that whole thing.
Sure.
And people are believing some of this stuff.
Sure. And look now too at the way we get our information, our news. We tune into the news that we want to hear.
Sure.
Historically,
I watch MSNBC, somebody else watches Fox.
And that's where you get your news and you get your outlets. Very few people watch C-SPAN and PCN. I try to watch those outlets as well to try to get something unfiltered, see if I can extrapolate anything. That's right. And see if I can just interpret things on my own, even though I have a particular slant. But I don't know. So one would think that technology could help, but then you see how it could drive us apart too.
Yeah.
I think families today are less cohesive.
Okay.
It's just I'm part of that process in the work I do. I do family law.
You do divorce law,
right? But you even see with estate planning. Families are just not together anymore. Sisters are battling brothers. They don't live together anymore. The families are spread out geographically.
Yeah.
And so there's something to that. I don't know necessarily what that is.
When I was interviewing Gil Sager across the street yesterday, I commented, we were talking about how business people, you no longer create a business for your son and his son.
Right.
You create a business like Facebook where you put it together and sell it as quick as you can.
Turn around.
Get your money.
Right.
Try something else. It's not like Sprecker's Hardware or White's Store or Wolston Construction where you have 5 and 6 generations.
Well, think about that. It's lack of roots. You see that even once in a while when I have to hire someone for a position. You never see anyone who's worked anywhere for more than 5 years anymore. There's people from job to job to job, and there's lack of roots. People pick up and move. Maybe that's a good thing too. With technology, with advances in society, we can pick up and move, but it comes at a cost or a price.
Well, we could go on.
No, sure. All right.
I mean, I just was going to say too. In 1960. I went to Europe for a year and traveled on a motorcycle, which was absolutely unheard of. Right. I mean, that was rare. Yeah. And now my niece, in 11th grade, can fly over to Germany for a couple of weeks. I mean, it's normal now for kids to be all over the world, to move distances. So it's going to make it no easier. Well, I guess we have to come together in a larger family than we have. Thank you very much.
Sure.
I appreciate you doing this, and we'll get it.